Welcome everyone to another vlog. So today's life journal reading plan again. So if you need one, go get a journal and a pen or a piece of paper until you can get yourself a journal. And I'm going to show you a quick little video on what app you need to follow along with me. And I'll show you that right now. Alright, so what you're going to want to do is go to the Play Store. Then you're going to want to go in the search bar. You're going to look up Bible. It's going to be this one right here that says installed. You're going to install that app. Once it's done installing, you're going to open it. So there's the home button to the very left, and then here's this little check button in the middle. You're going to press on the check button. Then your life journal reading plan is going to come up. You're going to press on that. And then today is October 4th. And this is your reading plan for the day. So we went over Esther, Esther 2, Psalms, and Luke. That's what we're going to go over. And you know, it goes by day. Now when you press on it, you can read along and read all the way down. And if you don't feel like reading and you want to listen to it, you can press play.
Nobles and officials, the military leaders of Persia and Media, the princes and the nobles of the provinces were present. For a full 180 days he displayed the vast wealth of his kingdom and the splendor and glory of his majesty.
So that's it. So download this app. Once again, plans, and press on Life Journal. And yeah, this is what home will look like. Alright. Well, now that you know how to download the app and get to your life journal plan. Today is October 6th, and we're going to jump right into it. I'm going to have timestamp codes, so if you just want to read it in your own Bible, or you want to read it on the app, or if you want to listen to it on the app and not listen to it with me right now, you don't have to. You can just jump ahead to the part where you can listen to me about what I took away from these verses and comment what you took away from these verses. Yeah, so let's jump right on in.
Esther 9. On the 13th day of the 12th month, the month of Adar, the edict commanded by the king was to be carried out. On this day, the enemies of the Jews had hoped to overpower them. But now the tables were turned, and the Jews got the upper hand over those who hated them. The Jews assembled in their cities, in all the provinces of King Xerxes, to attack those determined to destroy them. No one could stand against them, because the people of all the other nationalities were afraid of them. And all the nobles of the provinces, the satraps, the governors, and the king's administrators helped the Jews, because fear of Mordecai had seized them. Mordecai was prominent in the palace. His reputation spread throughout the provinces, and he became more and more powerful. The Jews struck down all their enemies with the sword, killing and destroying them, and they did what they pleased to those who hated them. In the citadel of Susa, the Jews killed and destroyed 500 men. They also killed Parshandatha, Dalphon, Aspatha, Paratha, Adalia, Aradatha, Parmashta, Arasai, Aradai, and Vizatha, the 10 sons of Haman, sons of Hamadatha, the enemy of the Jews. But they did not lay their hands on the plunder. The number of those killed in the citadel of Susa was reported to the king that same day. The king said to Queen Esther, "The Jews have killed and destroyed 500 men and the 10 sons of Haman in the citadel of Susa. What have they done in the rest of the king's provinces? Now what is your petition? It will be given you. What is your request? It will also be granted." "If it pleases the king," Esther answered, "give the Jews in Susa permission to carry out this day's edict tomorrow also, and let Haman's 10 sons be impaled on poles." So the king commanded that this be done. An edict was issued in Susa, and they impaled the 10 sons of Haman. The Jews in Susa came together on the 14th day of the month of Adar, and they put to death in Susa 300 men, but they did not lay their hands on the plunder. Meanwhile the remainder of the Jews who were in the king's provinces also assembled to protect themselves and get relief from their enemies. They killed 75,000 of them, but did not lay their hands on the plunder. This happened on the 13th day of the month of Adar, and on the 14th they rested and made it a day of feasting and joy. The Jews in Susa, however, had assembled on the 13th and 14th, and then on the 15th they rested and made it a day of feasting and joy. That is why rural Jews, those living in villages, observe the 14th of the month of Adar as a day of joy and feasting, a day for giving presents to each other. Mordecai recorded these events, and he sent letters to all the Jews throughout the provinces of King Xerxes, near and far, to have them celebrate annually the 14th and 15th days of the month of Adar as the time when the Jews got relief from their enemies, and as the month when their sorrow was turned into joy and their mourning into a day of celebration. He wrote them to observe the days as days of feasting and joy and giving presents of food to one another and gifts to the poor. So the Jews agreed to continue the celebration they had begun, doing what Mordecai had written to them. For Haman, son of Hammedatha, the Agagite, the enemy of all the Jews, had plotted against the Jews to destroy them, and had cast the pur, that is, the lot, for their ruin and destruction. But when the plot came to the king's attention, he issued written orders that the evil scheme Haman had devised against the Jews should come back onto his own head, and that he and his sons should be impaled on poles. Therefore these days were called Purim, from the word pur. Because of everything written in this letter, and because of what they had seen and what had happened to them, the Jews took it on themselves to establish the custom that they and their descendants and all who joined them should without fail observe these 2 days every year in the way prescribed and at the time appointed. These days should be remembered and observed in every generation by every family and in every province and in every city. And these days of Purim should never fail to be celebrated by the Jews, nor should the memory of these days die out among their descendants. So Queen Esther, daughter of Abihail, along with Mordecai the Jew, wrote with full authority to confirm this second letter concerning Purim. And Mordecai sent letters to all the Jews in the 127 provinces of Xerxes' kingdom, words of goodwill and assurance, to establish these days of Purim at their designated times, as Mordecai the Jew and Queen Esther had decreed for them, and as they had established for themselves and their descendants in regard to their times of fasting and lamentation. Esther's decree confirmed these regulations about Purim, and it was written down in the records.
That was Esther 9, Esther 10.
King Xerxes imposed tribute throughout the empire to its distant shores, and all his acts of power and might, together with a full account of the greatness of Mordecai, whom the king had promoted, are they not written in the book of the annals of the kings of Media and Persia? Mordecai the Jew was second in rank to King Xerxes, preeminent among the Jews, and held in high esteem by his many fellow Jews, because he worked for the good of his people and spoke up for the welfare of all the Jews.
Wow. So the main thing that I took away from all that, so what did I take away? So the first thing is that once again Esther petitioned the king. He said, anything you want, you can have it. And she was like, so what the Jews did today, I want them to be able to do it again. And they went out and they destroyed everyone again. They didn't just go out and destroy all their enemies and take out quite a bit of people. They sat there and they didn't take any of their goods. They didn't pillage. They left the goods, and I'm not sure if that was a prescription of the king or of God when they went out and destroyed Israel's enemies, but they left all the loot. And then the next part is that the Purim, or I hope I'm getting that right, that time is to be celebrated because it's a time of peace, of time of conquering Israel's enemies, and that it should be passed down from generation to generation. I'm not sure. I could probably look into it. It's probably something that Jews still practice. I would imagine so. I don't know what month in this day and age it is and what time, but it's probably still celebrated as a time of conquering enemies. And yeah, it sounds like Esther and all of them stayed in power, and basically anyone that came up against the Jews just pretty much got destroyed. That's the main thing that I took away, is that, you know, that time was such a good time for God's people that it got turned into a holiday, and basically anybody that came up against them in that time frame just got wiped out. I find it interesting that they didn't take the loot. I'm gonna have to look back and see if it's because of the like an edict of the king or God to not mess with their stuff. Anyways, the next thing that we're going to be jumping into is Luke 19. So here we go.
Luke 19. Jesus entered Jericho and was passing through. A man was there by the name of Zacchaeus. He was a chief tax collector and was wealthy. He wanted to see who Jesus was, but because he was short, he could not see over the crowd. So he ran ahead and climbed a sycamore fig tree to see him, since Jesus was coming that way. When Jesus reached the spot, he looked up and said to him, "Zacchaeus, come down immediately. I must stay at your house today." So he came down at once and welcomed him gladly. All the people saw this and began to mutter, "He has gone to be the guest of a sinner." But Zacchaeus stood up and said to the Lord, "Look, Lord, here and now I give half of my possessions to the poor, and if I have cheated anybody out of anything, I will pay back 4 times the amount." Jesus said to him, "Today salvation has come to this house, because this man too is a son of Abraham. For the Son of Man came to seek and to save the lost." While they were listening to this, he went on to tell them a parable, because he was near Jerusalem and the people thought that the kingdom of God was going to appear at once. He said, "A man of noble birth went to a distant country to have himself appointed king and then to return. So he called 10 of his servants and gave them 10 minas. 'Put this money to work,' he said, 'until I come back.' But his subjects hated him and sent a delegation after him to say, 'We don't want this man to be our king.' He was made king, however, and returned home. Then he sent for the servants to whom he had given the money, in order to find out what they had gained with it. The first one came and said, 'Sir, your mina has earned 10 more.' 'Well done, my good servant,' his master replied. 'Because you have been trustworthy in a very small matter, take charge of 10 cities.' The second came and said, 'Sir, your mina has earned 5 more.' His master answered, 'You take charge of 5 cities.' Then another servant came and said, 'Sir, here is your mina. I have kept it laid away in a piece of cloth. I was afraid of you because you are a hard man. You take out what you did not put in, and reap what you did not sow.' His master replied, 'I will judge you by your own words, you wicked servant. You knew, did you, that I am a hard man, taking out what I did not put in, and reaping what I did not sow? Why then didn't you put my money on deposit, so that when I came back I could have collected it with interest?' Then he said to those standing by, 'Take his mina away from him and give it to the one who has 10 minas.' 'Sir,' they said, 'he already has 10. He replied, 'I tell you that to everyone who has, more will be given. But as for the one who has nothing, even what they have will be taken away. But those enemies of mine who did not want me to be king over them, bring them here and kill them in front of me.'" After Jesus had said this, he went on ahead, going up to Jerusalem. As he approached Bethphage and Bethany at the hill called the Mount of Olives, he sent 2 of his disciples, saying to them, "Go to the village ahead of you, and as you enter it you will find a coat tied there, which no one has ever ridden. Untie it and bring it here. If anyone asks you, 'Why are you untying it?' say, 'The Lord needs it.'" Those who were sent ahead went and found it just as he had told them, As they were untying the coat, its owners asked them, "Why are you untying the coat?" They replied, "The Lord needs it." They brought it to Jesus, threw their cloaks on the coat, and put Jesus on it. As he went along, people spread their cloaks on the road. When he came near the place where the road goes down the Mount of Olives, the whole crowd of disciples began joyfully to praise God in loud voices for all the miracles they had seen. "Blessed is the King who comes in the name of the Lord. Peace in heaven and glory in the highest." Some of the Pharisees in the crowd said to Jesus, "Teacher, rebuke your disciples." "I tell you," he replied, "if they keep quiet, the stones will cry out." As he approached Jerusalem and saw the city, he wept over it and said, "If you, even you, had only known on this day what would bring you peace, but now it is hidden from your eyes. The days will come upon you when your enemies will build an embankment against you and encircle you and hem you in on every side. They will dash you to the ground, you and the children within your walls. They will not leave one stone on another because you did not recognize the time of God's coming to you." When Jesus entered the temple courts, he began to drive out those who were selling. "It is written," he said to them, "My house will be a house of prayer, but you have made it a den of robbers." Every day he was teaching at the temple, but the chief priests, the teachers of the law, and the leaders among the people were trying to kill him. Yet they could not find any way to do it because all the people hung on his words.
A lot to take in there. Excuse me. So that touches on Jesus's wisdom of the Pharisees always trying to come after him, but he always had the people's ear because he spoke the truth. I'm not sure if there's other verses, but I remember, that's like one of the only times that Jesus had righteous anger. Well, there's multiple times, but as far as I know, that's the only time where he had righteous anger with other human beings. The other times was, arguing with demons in the desert or whatever. But yeah, as far as I know, like Jesus rolled up in the temple and got furious. He was flipping tables, freaking out, calling all, this is a place, this is God's house, not a den of iniquities. You can't sell stuff here. Like, this is a place for only prayer. I find that's one of the things I take away, is that's one of the only times where Jesus had righteous anger against humans and was rolling around that temple just pissed. The other thing is the parable that he told to that tax collector. It kind of sounds, I don't know if that's the same thing as the Matthew principle, or that is the Matthew principle. We were just listening to Luke, but the whole thing of, to all those who have everything, more will be given, and to those who have nothing, everything will be taken. I always found that to be absolutely true. And the way he went about it, I'll be honest, I didn't really understand that last part when he was speaking to the guy who just kept the talent and everything, the way he put him down, and the true meaning behind that part kind of escaped me. Maybe I can go back, or maybe you guys can help me figure that out, about the true meaning of that part with the guy that kept the talent and putting him down, and him as evil and, or whatever else was going on right there. I didn't really understand, but the principle of, to those who have everything, more will be given, and to those who have nothing, everything will be taken. Even if you don't think you have anything and you think you're at the bottom, you can always go lower. And if you look at life and you look at the structure of people with good careers or whatever it is, when good things start happening and you're climbing up the economical ladder, or social ladder, or whatever it is, you seem to just keep climbing, because one good thing opens a door for two opportunities, and then and you can just keep going up. And I know that definitely to be true, because if you look at society, the people that are absolutely the most talented, they're like the 1% of the 1%. Those are the people that work like 80-hour work weeks. They don't take no for an answer. If there's something they need to learn, they learn it. They're just, those people within societies are unstoppable forces, and they will always be at the top of the ladder in a society. There's nothing you can do. If you take those people out, it's not going to work. Like, people think that those people, things should be taken from them. Without those people, you wouldn't have all these things. So that's the way I look at that. That's mostly what I take from that, is the importance of the people that have all and more will be given. How it's not necessarily, from my point of view or God's point of view, a bad thing. It's just the way things are. And what you need to do is be one of the people that everything's being given to you, and more just keeps being given to you. That's mostly what I took away. And the part where Jesus, that tax collector, in the very beginning, Jesus was like, come over and get out of that tree, come on. He goes to his house, and everyone's like, what are you doing hanging out with a sinner? He's a tax collector. He's like the worst of the worst. And he's like, I'm going to give half of what I own to the poor, and the other half I keep for myself. But if there's anybody that says that I ripped them off, I will pay them back 4 times what I did. And because he was loyal, the Holy Spirit found that house, is the way I look at that. So yeah, that's mostly what I took away from all that. Comment on what you take away, and don't forget to write down in your journal what you took away from these. And I will see you on the next one. Once again, thanks so much for watching. Like, subscribe, and comment. And I will see you on the next one. Alright, you guys take care. Peace.